Good afternoon, my people. What is going on? It is your main man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I want to welcome each and every one of you to episode 173. Are things getting better? And by are things getting better, I mean the financial world, of course. But before we get into all of that, let me practice the attitude of gratitude and say thank you, thank you, thank you to each and every one of you who are here with me as I stream live across the Wealth Our Way Facebook page and the Wealth Our Way Network YouTube page. If you have not gotten over to the YouTube page, please go to Wealth Our Way Network and subscribe today. I also want to give the Wealth Our Way Nation salute to all the members of Wild Nation who watch this program overnight, over the weekend, on their lunch break, in the pre-recorded state, wherever they can squeeze 15 minutes of financial literacy in. And then a heartfelt how are you to the good folks on the Life 101 platform who listen to the audio recording of this very here program. So it's a new week here at 15 Minutes of Finance. You know, we broadcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I hope you guys had the most amazing weekend. I know I sure did. I want to talk about the current state of affairs economically. We know we've been teetering on recession all year long. And even though it's supposed to be a very firm financial calculation as to whether there were two negative quarters of GDP to determine whether we're in recession or not, it's been up for debate whether we are actually in a recession or not in a recession. Here's what I'm here to tell you. I don't believe that it actually matters whether we're in a recession or not. I don't believe in any of the economic indicators, the economic support, whether we're lagging or projecting indicators, because what really drives our economy is our reaction to this news, our reaction to these states. I've said this on earlier broadcasts. The price of a stock does not go up unless people are out buying that company. If they're buying that company, they're demanding it, supply and demand. Demand makes it go up. If people are flooding the market, selling stocks, selling the bonds, selling the commodities, selling the cryptocurrency, it makes the price go down. As a professional in the financial space for 25 years, the one thing that I can tell you is trying to predict short-term human behavior, human reaction, very, very inconsistent, unstable process. So when we look at things like whether or not we're in a recession, we really should take a look at the news that has been coming out for the last 6 months, 9 months to a year, and seeing how people are reacting to that news. It didn't really matter that we didn't technically hit a recession. People heard about a recession so much. People saw interest rates rising. People saw prices going up in stores, and they felt as though a recession was present. As a result, people behaved accordingly. We saw the stock market from the top of the year to, I want to say, well, I wrote the date down, June 17th. From the top of the year to June 17th, the S&P 500 was down 23.3%. I want you to think about that for a minute. I think that we tend to get jaded. So I always remind you guys that I used to be a professional blackjack player. There are a lot of tricks that casinos do to make you not really focus on the fact that you're wagering large sums of money or any sum of money. The number one thing they do for 99% of casinos on the globe is they don't allow you to use money. You have to use chips. Even though these chips have prices or dollar denominations written on them, it is still a very big difference between putting a chip in a circle and pushing its financial equivalent in money. Now, in some casinos, still in Vegas, I believe, you can make a cash bet. It's really cool when you see somebody do it. But for the most part, everybody wants you to use their casino chips. Why do I bring that up? I think that we as investors, we tend to get a little detached from what is going on with our money when all we see is not our money. We see a paper statement or a computer screen that tells us a certain amount is here, a certain amount is there. I like to make my money in my mind the equivalent of something tangible. I'll say, oh, this money that I'm about to spend is a car, or this money that I'm about to spend is a vacation, or this money that I'm about to spend is training for one of my kids. And that makes it more real for me. It makes it more tangible for me when I can see that the money actually has an identity, so to speak. So I think when we look at our statements, whether it's our 401k, 403b, 457, IRA, whatever statement it is, our savings statement, bank account statement, it's easy to detach ourselves from the reality that that's real dollars and real cent. And even more tangible than the real dollars and real cent is it's real time that we invested to earn those dollars and to earn those cents. So when we look at 23.34, I think was the exact number that the market bottomed out at in the middle of June, that's almost a quarter, almost 1/4 of people's entire net worth that they have in the stock market going away. If you had $100,000 in your account when you went to bed on New Year's Eve, on June 17th, when you woke up, if you were 100% invested in the S&P 500, you had $770,000. Like your million went down $230,000. Now, here's the thing. I'm not trying to scare you, because the reality is July, the second half of June through July was amazing in the stock market. The market went up, and as of what date was that? As of yesterday, the market was down for the year 14%. The S&P 500 was down 14%. So it came off of its lows of being down 23%, and we recaptured, almost 10% of our downside. The one thing that my faithful Wild Nation members should always take into consideration and probably have it beaten into their heads is that I don't do general. This is rare. What you're hearing from me today is rare because I don't give market updates very frequently. Why don't I give market updates very frequently? My Wild Nation people know this, because nothing matters in the short term. I have clients who are retiring in one of my clients is retiring in 3 months, actually. I have another client that's retiring in 5 years. I have clients that are retiring in 15 years, 20 years. What does it matter what happened from January of this year to August 23rd of this year to someone who's retiring in 20 years? It doesn't matter. When we over focus on the short term, it makes us get off the path of our long-term plan. We put too much emphasis in it. So when I looked at the financial data this morning, interest rates, I also looked at how the market was returning. And by interest rates, I mean the federal funds rate, what the Fed is doing, whether they're going to increase rates again, leave rates be, or lower rates. I think everyone and their mom realizes that rates are not going to be lowered. And more likely than not, we are still going to see yet another raise in interest rates from the Federal Reserve Bank. And just as a refresher, the Federal Reserve rate, which is made by the Federal Reserve Bank, is the rate at which one bank is able to borrow from the Federal Reserve Bank. It's the rate that banks borrow money from the big bank. Then once they have that money, they turn around and lend it to consumers in the form of mortgages, student loans, auto loans, HELOCs, which are home equity lines of credit, credit cards. Any form that you have ever been able to borrow money, that money's source comes from the Federal Reserve in some way, shape, or form. As a result, when the Fed starts charging banks more money to borrow money, they consequently charge us more money to borrow money. I am currently in the market for some real estate investments. And as a result, I am taking money out of other real estate investments that I've had, and I'm rate shopping right now. And in doing the rate shopping, interest rate sensitivity is at the top of my list right now. I want to make sure that I'm borrowing at the best time. We saw mortgage rates hit a high early in this year. And then I think about a week and a half ago, the rates came down a whole percentage point off of their highs. So people who were looking to get mortgages 2 years ago were getting mortgages in the threes and the high 2%. As early as January of this year, you were getting mortgages in the 5.5, and at some point in this year, 6%. Now mortgages are starting to turn back and the rates are going down. Whereas there is a correlation between the federal fund rate and mortgage rates, they do not go lock and step, hand in hand. So you can get some very, very good separation between your mortgage rate and what the Fed fund rate is for the banks. However, things that are very, very interest rate sensitive, like credit cards, car loans, more short-term consumer debt, you don't want to be shopping for these items while interest rates are rising. You want to kind of chill. You just want to make sure that you are not being taken advantage of, because these loans, especially car loans now, and that's another thing for another show, but people focus too much on the affordability of a payment, because as we budget, we think I have this much money coming in, I can afford to let this much go out. And we think about the affordability of a payment. You have heard from other shows that I have done, because we have over 350 shows now on the internet. I teach you, do not focus on the payment of something. Don't buy something because the payment fits into your budget. Understand the total cost of what you are buying and whether that makes it a good purchase or not. I say that to say this. When I was a child, before I was old enough to even get a car note, car loans normally did not go out further than 36 months. By the time I was old enough to start buying and financing cars, they went from 36 to 48 to 60. The typical car loan was as long as 5 years to pay for your car. Now we're seeing car loans that go out to 72 months, 6-year car payments. And I'm sure that number is going to keep going up because finance companies love collecting interest. The problem is, if you don't take good care of your car, you could end up having a car note that outlives the car itself. And a lot of people trade cars in. So you can have a situation with, because you've stretched out the car loan so far, you could be what's known as underwater in your car note, owing more on the car than the car is worth. So when I pose the question, are things getting better? The answer is, unfortunately, to what it always is it depends on where your perspective is. If you have saved money and not really focused on what the stock market is doing and sold your investments when the market dipped down, but watched your market come back up and you're on the sideline, things aren't that bad for you. But if you are stretched to the limit financially and you went out and spent money that you didn't have, and per the pandemic and surplus monies that came in, things could be really, really tight right now. I do believe things are turning a corner. I have been pretty much spot on with what I said was going to happen to the economy. We are watching it happen right now. I think in the next 9 to 12 months, we'll watch things stay dark, but not miserably dark. And then we'll start to come out the other end at the end of a 12-month period. About a year from now, we'll be looking a lot better. In the short term, please take advantage of your savings rates there's not always bad with rising rates. Saving rates are higher than they've ever been before. Making sure that you don't overinvest. If you have money that you want to put to work, but an emergency may come up and you need that money, don't tie it up in a long-term investment. I think if we batten down the hatches for the next 6 to 9 months, we'll see price pressures start to come back. Supply chain will start to improve. There'll be more supply. And when there's more supply, there will be lower costs for us as consumers. I just went grocery shopping today. It's still off the chain. I go into stores. I still see some shelves empty. Things aren't the way they used to be, but they are coming back. So things are getting better. Tomorrow night, we do not have a financial power hour. We will have one next Wednesday. So you'll next see my handsome mug Thursday on the next 15 minutes of finance. With that being said, I want you guys to have an amazing, amazing week. And remember, wealth is not only for the wealthy. Please take care.